Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, thank you all for placing yourselves within the nomination process. This is very important that we have the opportunity to look and to consider. My questions will primarily be to Mr. Barr. Mr. Barr, I appreciated the opportunity to visit with you in my office this week, and this is an opportunity to review a little bit of that. And I just wanted to begin. Senator Toomey touched on this already, but just to clarify, and this will save me from putting a question for the record in front of you. It sounds like you are agreeing to considering permanent modifications to the SLR. When do you think we could expect to see action on that? I think this is really important that we address it. We know that we've got other members on the board that have already committed, but we'd like to hear a commitment that we move forward with this consideration.
Thank you, Senator Rounds, for that question. It was wonderful to spend time with you in your offices earlier. As I said to Senator Toomey, what I'd like to do is to come into this position, if confirmed, and wrap my arms around the whole capital and liquidity picture. That includes the SLR, includes the Basel III endgame and stress testing and the like, and make sure I understand the full package of potential issues. I want to make sure that I understand how the institutions are doing with respect to emergent risks as well.
Well, let's cut to the chase on that part, because even right now, in the middle of what is significant inflation, the Federal Reserve has written in its most recent supervision and regulation report that was released on Friday, and I'll quote it: "The banking system remains strong overall with robust capital and liquidity and improved asset quality." That would seem to point to the fact that the system right now is working, and what we're suggesting is that the modifications to the SLR would be appropriate as well. And we're just hoping that, I guess what I'm asking is that you would move forward fairly quickly to address the SLR issue.
Thank you, Senator Rounds. I agree with you that capital and liquidity in the system today is quite strong. But what I'd really like to do, and I think makes sense, is not to think about the capital rules piecemeal, but to understand them as a group.
But if you're talking about a long-term study, you're talking an extended period of time. I just want to clarify that this isn't going to take years to get done.
Senator, it will not take years to get done.
Will it take months to get done?
I can't specify the exact time period, Senator. I promise that I take the issues seriously. They're the reason that I am focused on the resilience of the financial system, and I promise to address the issues in a serious way.
Okay. Just a few minutes ago, as we were looking at this, Senator Tester started out, he talked about the success that we had with 2155, and you and I spoke about 2155 and the fact that I'd questioned whether or not you would have supported a number of the changes that were in there. Part of what 2155 did and focused on was the ability to tailor based upon the size of the different banks and so forth. Let's go back into that a little bit. It sounds like you still feel that tailoring based on size and a risk profile is good for banks. And it sounds specifically that, in particular, community banks. But what about regional banks as well? It seems to me that if you're tailoring, can't you apply that to regional banks as well?
Thank you, Senator. Yes, I think that tailoring or a graduated approach, a tiered approach, makes sense for the financial system. You want the strictest rules for the very largest institutions, and you want gradually less restrictive rules as you get to simpler, less complex, less risky institutions. And you particularly want, with respect to community banks, the simplest of rules, given the potential for regulatory burden.
What about say, banks $50 billion and over, regional banks?
I think that same principle of tailoring, or as I think of it as tiered approaches to regulation, makes sense at each of the kinds of size levels. I strongly agree with the principle of a tiered approach. Where I had disagreement was on whether that approach was exactly what I would have done for each of those institutions. Obviously, Congress has spoken on that.
Tailoring recognizes that you can modify it based on the size. Let me ask this, just in turning to another topic, I've long pushed our U.S. representatives at the International Association of Insurance Supervisors to advocate in favor of the aggregation method as an alternative method to the ICS. Before her confirmation, Governor Brainerd indicated unequivocal support for this position and noted that the Fed continues to advocate for the aggregation method internationally. Mr. Barr, if confirmed, will you commit to the position outlined by Governor Brainerd in defending the use of the aggregation method and the state-based system of insurance regulation? This is a very important question.
Senator Rounds, I agree with Governor Brainerd about that approach.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I understand Senator Warner is with us virtually.